Myself and the panel are going to try and give you a snapshot of some of the key law reform but also social reform issues for gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, intersex and queer people. And we hope to kind of stimulate you to either pursue through your studies some of the issues that we talk about tonight or maybe become active in law reform and advocacy.
We had a wide range of speakers and all the speakers were very well prepared. I think that was the key factor, that their points were really subtle.
Is there a topic you're particularly interested in tonight?
A thesis on refugee and sexuality.
Minority issues, adoption rights.
I was just wondering what intersex is.
The social change and the legal changes hasn't kept up with each other.
There are many countries around the world where gay and lesbian sexuality is not decriminalised.
The one thing that is missing is the right of same-sex couples to choose and choose to be married.
I thought it was really good. I think it introduced a lot of new perspectives and it was really well received by the audience.
Why change the Marriage Act?
The married relationship allows for a completely solid legal right to be achieved, irrespective of living together or not.
Marriage should be abolished.
If you are the same, then you're entitled to the same access to legal institutions in Australia as every other person.
And it's quite surprising to see where you find people who are engaging on these topics.
Marriage is an exclusive and exclusionary institution. It always has been.
Dragging the ball and chain seems to be a reflection on the fact that the current state of politics doesn't really reflect the progressive attitudes in society.
And I think we really need to be clear what we're talking about in this debate is the state's interest in regulating relationships.
It's an actual fundamental denial of the public affirmation of the existence of your relationship. And that's what marriage allows at its heart.
And it's absolutely core that the same thing that's allowed for one citizen of the Commonwealth is allowed for another citizen of the Commonwealth.
I don't want to be equal. I want to be different.
And given the current political will around a human rights charter, I do not think that is going to come anytime soon, unfortunately.
The terrible injustice that's being done to your fellow Australians just because they experience difference is horrific.
But obviously you are getting opposition and arguments against. What are those arguments?
That, marriage is inherently a heterosexual institution and it's designed for the protection of children. Show me where in the legislation it requires children.
And they were able to distinguish between a lot of quite hard questions, sometimes pretty challenging issues. So it was really informative.
The comment I'd like to make is why can't we just use the word on the concept of marriage as being marriage for heterosexuals and at the same time set up same-sex unions?
If you were to propose a tiered relationship recognition system, that is, you could have heterosexual couples being able to get married, have civil unions, relationship registers or de facto relationships, but same-sex couples could only have access to 2 out of those 3. You promote a relationship hierarchy.
I think as a matter of principle, different is never equal.
So it's very intimate and it suited the style of the moderator, Julie.
And I know you want to hear about refugees. Am I right?
Asylum seekers from places like Iran, from Bangladesh, from Uganda are being asked to subscribe to what effectively is a kind of Western, very gay male specific identity.
There are lots of opinions about different cultures and traditions and about the way homosexuality is generalised in our popular culture.
There is a rich history and culture in many nations around the world where same-sex relationships were not only existent but celebrated. And I think if we start improving around a lot of this and also in culturally appropriate ways and not trying to impose very specific, very kind of ethnocentric, sometimes even neo-colonial ideas on other cultures, but actually approaching them in a really, with an open mind, with real sensitivity and using their own cultural languages and their own kind of vocabularies to discuss these issues, we'll see far more, significant change in this area.
There's a fundamental streak of decency in Australians. And it's a question of how people define that decency.
What we're going through is an example of how individual legal practitioners can bring mighty change.
It's going to make a big impact for the people who came and who really engaged in it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank our panel for their passionate contribution.